Hello everybody, my name is Nicola and welcome back to my channel. This is the Frugal Cottage, where we talk all things money to help you on your financial journey. Today's video is all about the daily habits of frugal people. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get started. So, frugal living. Obviously, as someone who has a blog called The Frugal Cottage, I am well aware of what frugal living is all about. We've been practicing this for a long time now, and there are certain things that you get in the habit of doing pretty much every day. And so this is just to share some of those things for you to think about whether you can incorporate them into your lifestyle to help you with your transition to a frugal life. So frugal living is basically making do with what you have. It's making your priorities around money perhaps different to the norm, and kind of enjoying the more simple life that it brings. And there are certain things that you can do every day that will help you to do this more and more often, and over time these will become ingrained in your routine, so then you don't even have to think about them because you'll find you're doing them anyway without thinking about it. The first one is to do with food, and it is to either make your lunch at home to take with you or eat leftovers. I think in the UK especially there's a real thing about eating leftovers. So if you've made something the night before and there is some leftover, there is nothing wrong with having that for your lunch the next day, or even for your tea the next day. Leftovers are not to be thrown away at any cost unless there is not enough of them to make up something like a meal, but then you could always just add something else. Making lunch at home and taking leftovers to work will save you so much money, but it also, more importantly in some way than that, it reduces your food waste. And it reduces the kind of idea that it's okay to throw away food, because if it's perfectly acceptable and perfectly fine to be eaten, then why wouldn't you do that the next day? Some meals that you make taste better the next day. Once they've been left for the flavours to mingle and mellow, they'll taste even better the next day, trust me. So the first one is to make your own lunch and eat your leftovers as that. It's really important, and over time you will see that that does save you money on your food bill because you are using up what you already have. The second point links into this. So number 2 is to use a list when you go shopping. I don't understand how people go to the supermarket and they don't have a list of what they need to buy, because I don't understand how they'd remember everything that they need to get for the week ahead. If you take a list with you, you are more likely to get what you need, less likely to be swayed by all the offers, and you are less likely to forget something because you've got it written down in front of you. But using a list when you go shopping means that you don't buy things that you do not need, and you also are kind of planning ahead around what you're going to eat in the week and use up. So again, it's minimising that food waste. But also, if you think about if you're throwing food away, you're also in theory throwing money away. So it's thinking about that. So use a list when you go shopping. Number 3 is to not be bothered by brands. So brands and marketing is such a huge business. It costs so much money in terms of marketing budgets and advertising for the big brands. Frugal people generally aren't as bothered by brand names as others, and that's because you just don't need their products most of the time. You might want a couple of them and you might shop at certain shops, but if we use the supermarket as an example, the supermarket owned goods are just as good most of the time as their branded counterparts, and they are much cheaper. If you go one level down in terms of brands in your food shop, you will save so much money that way, and that can be applied to anything. So clothes shopping, instead of getting really big brand name jeans, go for a lesser kind of branded pair if you like. They're so much cheaper, and do they not do the same job? So frugal living people aren't bothered by brands in the same way. It's not to say that you can't buy them at all, and it's not to say that you can't be swayed by the marketing, because that's what it's there for, but it's thinking about just how much that represents something. Because after all, one blue pair of jeans is pretty similar to another blue pair of jeans, and there might be a £50 difference in the price. Is it really worth that much more just for essentially the same item? Probably not in the grand scheme of things. So just think about brands and about how their image is modelled so that you want to also have that, and therefore you buy into their products. Number 4 is to do low cost activities. So when you're out and about and having fun and meeting friends, it shouldn't require you to get your credit card out and spend money. It shouldn't. You should be able to find and enjoy low cost activities, such as meeting up in the park, taking a picnic, flask of coffee, you know, the little things that actually are really nice to do and in some ways are much more relaxing than going to a busy shopping centre with lots of people, especially in the current climate. How nice would it be to just go and sit in a park with some friends, you all taking your own lunch, your packed lunch. It shouldn't cost you a lot to enjoy yourself, and these low cost activities over time do have a big impact. But it's also appreciating the smaller things, so spending that time with someone, spending that time just having conversations, having that time with other people should be the most important thing, not how much money you are spending on doing that. And if you have friends who repeatedly request to do quite expensive activities, then maybe look at other ways of suggesting to do stuff. Maybe try and get them around to thinking that they don't have to spend money to have a good time. Number 5 is to try and repair things instead of replacing them. So this goes back to the not throwing away. Frugal people do not throw things away on a whim. Most of the time they'll try and repair them or repurpose them as something else, but try and repair them first. I think throwing away something is a last resort and you kind of exhausted all other options before that happens. You can save yourself a lot of money by learning how to repair things yourself. There are so many videos on YouTube that teach you how to do things, from fixing a boiler to fixing a tap to mending some jeans. You can learn, if you want to, pretty much anything to do with mending and repairing. There are so many good tutorials on here as a platform to help you to do that. So try to repurpose and repair things before chucking them out. Because again, if you're throwing something out, that used to be money at the end of the day. Number 6 is to plan ahead and be prepared. So it kind of links back to maybe the making lunch at home and the leftovers. Frugal people tend to plan ahead, so they tend to think about the week ahead, about the month ahead, and think about their lives in terms of what they need to do and what they're going to be doing, so that they can make plans and put things into place so that you're organised and prepared for what happens. And that can be a daily thing, so you've made your lunch, your flask of coffee, you've got everything sorted so you're not rushing around in the morning, as opposed to the more longer term aims, so you know that this month you need to do X, Y and Z to be able to continue with the longer term goals. Being prepared for stuff makes life so much less stressful, and it just takes that bit of time of getting used to doing that. But once you do that, being prepared will only be a good thing. Number 7 is to compare prices. So this can link into things like car insurance, home insurance. If you look on, there are lots of comparison websites, but compare prices to do with purchasing. So things like insurance, but also things like washing machines, fridges, freezers, all those kind of things. Compare prices, make sure that you are getting the best deal for what you want in that product before you buy that. There are lots of really expensive things, there are lots of kind of middle range prices, and then there are the lower price. You need to decide, because it doesn't mean that the cheapest is always the best. It might not be for your circumstances, but compare prices to make sure that you're getting the best deal for you at that time. And don't forget also to go through a cashback website to get cashback on your purchases. And the last one is frugal living people tend to not shy away from the fact that they could buy things secondhand. So with the growth of eBay and now Facebook Marketplace and Vinted and Depop and all those kind of things, it's becoming more kind of socially acceptable to buy second-hand things, especially clothes, but things like furniture, children's toys, books, DVDs, CDs. Frugal people tend to look at buying things second-hand, especially if they're large items, because sometimes people are throwing away perfectly good things and there's no reason for that to go to the tip to landfill. You can use that, repurpose it, repair it if necessary, but frugal people tend to look at buying things secondhand where they can. Even on bigger purchases like a car. Secondhand in kind of the frugal lifestyle is not a bad thing at all. And there you have it. There are some daily habits of frugal people, and that, if you incorporate that into your life, over time they should make a real difference to your general lifestyle. The pressure of kind of the fast-paced society we live in does not lend itself to frugal living in the same way. But if you try and implement these changes slowly, it should have a really positive impact on your lifestyle and, yes, of course, on your finances over time. But the organisation and the slowing down and the appreciating the small things really do make a really positive impact just on general well-being after a while. And you know, you'll find that you're doing these things more often without even thinking about it, which at the end of the day, if you're incorporating and trying to change to the frugal lifestyle, that should be a good thing. And it does make a difference over time. Let me know if you think that I've missed anything out. Would you add anything to this list? Let me know in the comments below if you think that there's something else that you should do daily as a frugal person. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you again very soon.